Hello, welcome to Black Man Speak. I'm your co-host, the J.R. Stewart.
And I'm your co-host, the Tommy D. Duncan III, otherwise known as TD3. Jimmy, it is Wednesday night, May the 10th, 2023. And if it's Wednesday night,
It's definitely Black Man Speak. With that being said, Tom, let's give a big shout out to Liquid for providing our theme music. And if you haven't already, please hit that like button. Also, hit the subscribe button so you'll be notified when new shows are uploaded, which is every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Time. And then if you like the show, and you're here watching it live with us, invite a friend or two and have them come join you. This is the best 1 hour on the internet that you'll find. It's the most progressive talk show out there, centered around not that we only limit ourselves to, but primarily focused on black issues. And Tom, there's no better show than Black Men Speak. And with that being said, let's get started.
all right, Jimmy, we have an interesting show tonight in store for you. We have a couple of news briefs that we're going to spend a little time on this evening. Of course, the proposal for reparations for those who were descendants of those enslaved in California. Task Force just approved a recommendation for reparations to be paid. And then also, we are going to talk about the unfortunate, tragic event that just happened in New York City with a young man. Well, he's not a child young man, but Jordan Neely, who died on a subway incident that just happened this past week. And I think both of these stories are going to be ongoing for a while. But we're going to talk a little bit about those tonight. And then to wrap up the back end of our show, we're going to have two special guests who are going to talk to us about what they're doing in the Mississippi state and, as it pertains to addressing healthcare disparities. In Mississippi, Jackson, and multiple other areas throughout the state of Mississippi, what they've been doing up to and including even helping folks who are part of the water crisis over the last several months, Jimmy. So we have a nice little lineup, and I'm looking
We
forward
have a packed field show, Tom. And let me just say this on the issue of reparations and the subway incident. We're actually going to cover those in more detail next week. So we'll talk about it briefly on this show tonight. In addition to that, Tom, we also have, because we partnered with some a couple of marketing companies, one that deal with hotels and resorts. They're giving us some stuff to give away, and then the discount book company that puts out the discounts for mostly hotels and restaurants, and we have some of those to give away. So, so stay tuned, and every week we'll have some really nice. Fun places and fun things to give away. So another reason to watch Black Men Speak. Come back, invite a friend.
Yep. So we've got it lined up, Jimmy.
We got it lined up, so let's get started, Tom. Where do you want to start?
Why don't we start first with the subway incident in New York City?
Yes, very unfortunate. I feel for the young man. It's been reported, Tom, that the young man suffered from some health issues and maybe some mental health
Mental health
issues.
issues, correct.
And this is not a case, even though the person who was primarily responsible, probably for his death, was a white person, a former Marine. But there were two other people that facilitated in the assist
Held his arm
to,
down.
yeah, to restrain the young man. And I believe that their goal was simply to hold him and restrain him to keep him from harming anyone until the police could come. The person who was engaged in the chokehold, um, I think from the video that I saw, kept asking for someone to make sure that they notify the police, call the police, so at the next stop, hopefully the police will be there and can deal with this. So I don't think there was a nefarious intention on anybody's part to for this man to die. But unfortunately, Tom, that is what happened. Whether it was intentional or not, the young man died.
Very true, Jimmy. And, I'm not military. And so I can't speak specifically to all the training that they get, but I do know that, when you go through the military, you are a trained killer. And so you have to
Yes, that's
use
correct.
that skill and that responsibility with a great deal of care when you are in the public. I mean, they train those who are in the military and even in law enforcement to a certain degree to use, some judgment and some restraint. Obviously, they're here protecting American citizens in the United States and or overseas.
Well, Tom, there's very little restraint being taught in the military. I am a special forces Marine, and only thing I was taught for the most part, unless you want to interrogate someone and keep them alive, but for the most part, all the 99% of the training is on how to destroy things and kill people. So there is no subtle way to just restrain a person. There's only quick ways to kill a person so they don't kill you.
Yeah, and in this case, again, we're human, and there's a lot of course, politicization of what's going on here. My heart and my prayers go out to the family of Mr. Neely. We do understand, based upon the initial information that we have, that he did have some mental health issues. He was homeless. He lost his mother. I don't know if I have the exact year, but I want to say it was 2007. And he had really been struggling since he lost his mother. But all that being said, he had been, trying to get some help. Obviously, from what we also know is that he had been homeless for a period of time. I was in New York recently, Jimmy, and so when you get on the train, when you get on the subway, it's just a fact. It's normal for people to come on, entertain, ask for help, whether they're selling candy, whether they're entertaining, whether they're beating a drum or whatever. That looks like there are a lot of people who are in a lot of hurt. There are a lot of people who are hungry, and that looks like that was the case with this young man because he was reaching out, saying that he was hungry, that he was thirsty, that he didn't care anymore. He was having an episode. And
Right.
this gentleman, came up behind him, put him in a chokehold. Obviously, those chokeholds are pretty dangerous. I know you can speak to that yourself. And then he had a couple of people that were holding him down and restraining him. And there's a difference between restraining someone and putting enough lethal force to actually kill someone.
Right. And Tom, that's the danger. This is why I take extra care to not involve myself in any kind of altercations or fights. Um, I know if I lose my temper and if I'm out of control, I can easily kill someone. So for that reason, I have to take extra care. And with that being said, that I believe this Marine should have done the same thing. A chokehold probably wasn't the best solution. Maybe a full Nelson, or just sitting on top of the young man, or wrestle him to the ground. But a chokehold is probably not the best course because I can tell you right now, Tom, there's in law enforcement, they may teach that hold as a means to have someone pass out. That basically enough lack of oxygen to the brain causes you to just pass out. But in the military, it's not that subtle. I mean, that maneuver is generally used to choke a person to death or to break their neck. There is no how to do this in a way to make a person pass out so they survive the altercation. So, with that being said, I would hope that other military people out there who engage themselves in some type of what they think is a response to save the public, make sure you take extra care that the amount of force that you use is warranted. This young man wasn't a deadly. He wasn't a deadly threat to anyone, so deadly force shouldn't have been used against him.
Correct.
So,
There were no
so
weapons found, Jimmy.
right, no weapons. I know he had made some crazy statements, but that's what crazy people
Exactly.
do. And
That's
with
New
that
York.
being said,
That's
Tom,
New York.
I'm going to say that you're braver than I am because when I go to New York, I do not take the subway. Of course, I'm a hired driver to take me around the city, but there's no way I'm stepping down to that subway. Not because I'm afraid, because I don't want to be engaged and have to deal with something like this because I know what I'm capable of, and I do my absolute best to avoid any kind of trouble with the outside public.
This is the problem to me. I understand that he may have said this was not his intent, but he knew what he was doing if he was a trained murderer, and that's what folks in the military are.
That's what military people are,
He
Tom.
knows
They're trained.
this, and so the question is: one, obviously, you did not value this young man's life, and murder is murder. and it was on film. Now, we won't talk about all the instances where somebody may have been murdered and it wasn't caught on video or camcorder or whatever that. I'm camcorder. I'm taking myself way back. But all that being said is you know what you are capable of, just like you, Jimmy, know what you're capable of.
Yes, Tom.
So you know what you're doing when you're putting your arms around this person and putting a chokehold and what the possibilities are. Question is, why? That's not the only way that you can restrain someone.
It's not,
If
Tom.
you feel that he is a threat to someone, there's more than one way to restrain.
But people are getting tired, Tom. They're getting frustrated. And let's just say this. And this is a legal disclaimer from my law school days, criminal law class. Murder does imply you have to maybe prove an intent to make a charge of murder. So I would say that certainly you can make the claim of involuntary manslaughter, but murder means that you actually went out and willfully intended to kill someone. So let's just this is a distinction there, probably not necessary, but just want to make sure that for the show Black Men Speak, that we're always on the proper foundation.
Well, Eric Adams, the mayor, made a statement earlier today, and I understand why he did it, and because of course there's a lot of protesting because folks want to see accountability. They want to see action. The gentleman who killed him, intent or not, killed him. Got questioned a couple of times, and then you're free to know.
Yes.
It's kind of interesting that when it comes to folks who look like you and me, Jimmy, they get a few questions and they're free to go home. Just like if we look at Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia, they were free to go until you had protests. And so, not the same incident, but it's very peculiar to me how the logistics change depending on the color of the skin. But at the end of the day, Jimmy, there's still a lot of this story left to tell. I would have expected that, if nothing else, he would have been at least charged with something as opposed to oops, and you can go home.
Well, Tom, there may still be an ongoing investigation.
Yes,
I don't think the prosecutor or DA's office has made a determination yet. So why don't we do this? By next week, we'll hopefully more details have been released, more information have been shared with the public, and we'll be able to talk about this matter in more detail next week. With the time we have for this segment, let's segue into California.
And before we do that, why don't we acknowledge our guests and friends who are online? Now we have Miss Dee Bowman.
Who do we have?
We have Miss Dee Bowman out of the Atlanta, Georgia area. We have Miss Faith Fleming, who is in the DFW, back in the DFW area. We have Miss Armanda Brown, who is also in North Dallas area. And I believe, of course, we also have our good friend and brother Uncle Asar Al-Kavilan out of the Austin area.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us tonight. Miss Audrey K. Booker. We have, good brother, Frederick V. Roberts, Esquire, out of the Prairie View area. And so we want to thank you for joining us. Feel free to submit any questions, thoughts, or comments that you have on the chat line, and we'll make sure to acknowledge you. Oh, we got Bill Nicholson.
Bill Nichols.
We want to thank you, Bill, for joining us this evening. We've got Rasta Saint 7. Rasta Saint 7. Who has joined us this evening. And so we want to thank you for showing up today as well. So let's go ahead and move forward with the California Reparations Initiative.
Okay. Well, I believe the commission that was put together, Tom, I'm afraid that this is more to do about nothing. I think it's a way to get Black folks sort of worked up before an election. But in the end, I doubt if one penny is actually allocated or appropriated by the legislators just at the state level or the federal level to pay any reparations. And so I don't believe in chasing pipe dreams, but I certainly don't want to rain on someone else's parade who believes that reparations are coming in some form or fashion. Until I see it, I'm not going to believe it. And knowing the way this government works at all levels, I know how things are promised. I know how things are taken away. I know how the $30 billion given to HBCUs by the Trump administration was taken away by the Biden administration, just to spite the previous president. So I know how these things go, even when they are approved. Money has been approved for Japanese internment
Yes.
during World War II. Not one penny of it has ever been paid. So I know how these things go, and there's no reason for me to believe that somehow blacks are going to be the exception to the rule when it comes to paying for damages or the sins of this country.
Now, wait a
So,
minute. You're
I,
trying to tell me that the government, your president,
which one is
Mr.
this?
Reagan,
Okay,
and the
Mr.
bill
Reagan,
signed a
yes.
$1.2 billion piece of legislation. What you're trying to tell me that $1.2 billion, not a,
Was never ever paid. Not one penny of it was ever
how did
paid,
that
sir.
happen, Jimmy?
Well, I mean, it's up to
We
the
can find hundreds of billions to send overseas.
Oh yes, Tom. We can find billions to send
Hundreds
overseas,
of billions.
to give away, to be lost. We have billions and billions lost from the Treasury, just stolen. No one can account for it. So of course, but no, that money has never been paid, Tom. And just like whatever money is approved for slavery or discrimination or Jim Crow or any of the horrible things that have happened to Black people since we've been in this country will never ever be paid. And in fact, the governor of California, I think, when put on the spot, just recently asked once his committee that he approved came with it back their recommendations. He actually said that, well, no, the reparation won't be in the form of money. So I guess that means that's going to be in the form of, we're going to clean your streets up, or put more patrol officers on the street, or do a better job at a street sweeping. I don't know what he means by it's not going to be money, but I guess it's going to be in kind services. But the people on the committee who voted for this and approved it, they're talking money. They're talking cash payments, checks to people, not just initially, but in monthly installments. They're talking bank loans, and they're talking interest-free mortgage loans, and mortgage forgiveness. And so they're talking money, and the governor is talking something else. But certainly, in the end, Tom, it won't be one penny paid to Black people. So people, please don't get your hopes up.
Well,
If it happens, it happens. Get excited at that point. I doubt very seriously it's going to happen.
well, it starts off with it being stamped and legislated. That's the first thing. It may not happen, Jimmy, but just getting the stamp of, you know what, maybe we were wrong by enslaving your ancestors for 400 some odd years, and never even formally gave you an apology, never put anything in place to help compensate you for the ills that this country has done in order to build the most powerful and military strong country in the world. And we'll see what happens. I think that they are supposed to meet again this summer sometime. I think they just kind of made the official recommendation. I want to say it was up to $1.2 million per person, but that kind of varies depending on the situation. And they're supposed to be meeting with the legislature in California this summer, Jimmy. I would say that I would be very guardedly optimistic about this as well, Jimmy. I would say that I'm leaning towards you in terms of anything really happening, given the history of this country, as it pertains to actually doing right for those that they have done wrong. But we still have to fight the good fight. We still have to continue to push, and hey, you got to fight for what's right.
Well, we're going to talk about this more in detail next week,
Yep.
Tom. So we'll go into, who qualify, how they're going to figure that out. Considering that 2% of free blacks owned slaves during slavery, and 2% of white people in the South owned slaves during slavery. About 3% of Indians, tribes owned slaves. The only ones who get a free pass, Tom, in my book, are the Mexicans, because Mexico did not allow slavery. It was a place where some escaped slaves were able to go to gain freedom. So the Mexicans get a pass. White people, Southern white people who own slaves, Black people who own slaves, and Indians who own slaves don't.
Gotcha. And before we go to our next topic of discussion. We have a couple of other folks online. We want to welcome Mr. Vincent, Mr. V. Stokes. Thank you for joining us this evening. Also, Ms. Tanya Hall, thank you for joining us this evening. And the commish, Brother Ed
Commish
is back on with us today. We want to thank you for joining us. For those of you who may not have listened to his show, Brother Ed Gray, the commish radio show. I think they have something coming on every week, so make sure that you go.
They do, Tom, and I've been for the last month. I've been watching, listening every Saturday. So I would highly recommend for everyone to go check it out. It's well worth the investment.
Yeah,
That's
make
a
sure
really
you
good
subscribe.
talk
Make
show.
sure you subscribe.
Yeah.
Make sure you listen. And then also our good friend, Brother Asar, Uncle Asar Keblan is now on a podcast as well called African Genius Podcast.
Okay.
Promoting Pan-African thought, culture, and art, cultivating a universal African mind. Again, that's African Genius, promoting Pan-African thought, culture, and art, cultivating the universal African mind. So definitely check that out on YouTube as well. And we will now bring in our special guest.
Well, Tom, before we do that, I know we're a little bit long on this segment.
Sure.
So let me make one more announcement before we bring our guest on.
Okay.
For everyone, if you come back next week, we are working on getting the email account set up for Black Men Speak. And once we get that established, if you come back next week, we're actually going to give all of our guests who are here, who are interested, we're going to be giving away a trip, 3 days, 4 nights. Well, I'm sorry, 4 days, 3 nights to San Antonio. So make sure you come back next week to take advantage of that if you're interested. That's going to be a reward to all those who are faithful listeners and watchers of the Black Men Speak. That being said, Tom, let's go on to bring our guest on.
All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and bring in our special guest via mobile phone. They are in Jackson, Mississippi, and unfortunately, they've had some pretty bad storms out there, and as a result of it, their internet.
Okay, looks like that storm may be affecting Tommy also because he just dropped off. Let's see, I think he's coming back on. There he is.
Okay, give me just a second, Jimmy. It looks like I may need to. I'm having some issues with my video here. That's strange.
Okay.
Let me try something. All right, what I'm going to do in the interest of time, Jimmy, is I'm going to jump off and jump back on. You can talk for a couple of seconds and then I'll be right back, okay?
Okay. Well, while we're doing that, we're going to, if you are involved with if you have a business or know someone who has a business that we can promote on the show, please reach out to us and let us know. We want to certainly do our best to promote business economic activity and get the word out for our Black businesses to help them out. Also, if you have a nonprofit, a 501c, please reach out to us because we're going to be doing special giveaways for our nonprofits. In fact, we have 2 giveaways that we're doing. We have 2 nonprofits that we're supporting with this show. One's called Affordable Community Housing, located in McKinney, Texas. They raise money to build and buy homes for single mothers and for disabled veterans. I mean, they buy them, they build them, and they give them away. So it's a really good charity. And then our guests that we're going to have on tonight, they have a nonprofit also that we're going to be asking people to reach out to and support. Tom, are you back now? Or
Yes, I am back. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right.
So I was just telling everyone about the our nonprofit support. So if you're involved with a nonprofit and you want us to support it and announce it, just reach out to us and let us know. And then after we get our guest on, we're going to take a break, and at one of the breaks we'll talk about a business in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that we're supporting this week also. And we're going to tell you how to win some really nice travel stuff if you support the nonprofits or these businesses. Tom, with that being said, let's go. Let's get cranky. We're behind.
All righty. Good deal. I'd now like to introduce on our audio channel.
Okay.
Brother Jay and Mrs. Erica Thompson of the Magnolia Media Foundation out of Jackson, Mississippi. They are a nonprofit organization that is focused on addressing healthcare disparities and focusing on health wellness in Jackson and several other areas in the great state of Mississippi. Brother Thompson, can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yes. I can hear you.
All right, good deal. And yes.
Yes, you're coming through loud and
All
clear.
right, and Mrs. Erica Thompson, you're there as well, correct?
Yes.
All right, good deal. Well, hey, we thank you for joining us tonight. We do. Hopefully, we'll have to have you guys on again when the weather isn't so bad there. But we want to thank you for joining us tonight and talk a little bit about what you guys are doing in Mississippi. We want to learn a little bit more about your foundation, how and why it got started, what you're doing there, and see where that conversation takes us, and introduce our audience to the great work that y'all are doing in Mississippi.
All right. So, Brother Duncan, first of all, thank you for this platform. We thank you for the opportunity to share some of the work that we're doing in the communities here in Jackson and the surrounding areas. Magnolia Medical Foundation is a nonprofit founded by my wife and myself back in June of 2009. And it was founded as a result of largely because of the health disparities here in the state of Mississippi. At the time when I was laid off of pharmaceutical sales, I did pharmaceutical sales I had diabetic products. And, one thing that triggered me in that arena is my manager did a field ride one day, and I told my doctor to use this product, have your patient use this product in conjunction with diet and exercise. And my manager asked me, he said, Jay, if you don't have anything to sell, or if they get so well that they don't take your product, he said, what are you going to sell? And it dawned on me at that time that we were really just being exploited in the underserved communities, because the disease states that were attacking our communities were the products that I was selling drugs for. And so my wife, being a physician, actually having a background in medical and a physician, we both collaborated, and we just said, we're going to really target and just kind of concentrate our efforts in preventive health. And that's where Magnolia Medical was birthed in June of 2009 to address some of these issues. Initially, we started largely to address diabetes self-management and to kind of reverse trends of pre-diabetics to keep them from becoming full-blown diabetics. That became such a success, we just kind of branched off from there. So my wife is the executive director, Dr. Erica Thompson. She's the executive director of Magnolia Medical Foundation, handles day-to-day operations. I'm the president of the board. And so work tirelessly in underserved communities to ensure that people are able to live a better quality of life by improving their health outcomes.
Wow, that's really great. I was really just getting ready to say, how could you go wrong selling diabetic medicine? But I understand now you told the rest of the story about how you got in trouble for advocating exercise and diet. I would definitely say that's really where the medical establishment should start, laying off sugar and flour as a starting point, in addition to exercise, and then the medicine should help supplement your health. But of course, we know that the diabetic industry is huge. So diet, exercise, and are not part of the financial blueprint for a big pharma. All they want you to do is what the doctors do to keep writing the prescriptions to take more and more medicine.
That's exactly right. I had a grandmother at the time who had just had a toe amputated, and later had a leg amputated, and later had an above knee amputation, and later died. And I tell people all the time, nobody typically dies from diabetes. You die from the complications that stem from the disease.
Correct.
And so that was largely disproportionately impacting our communities. And so, my father is a diabetic, my brother is a diabetic, my sister is a diabetic. So with him telling me that, it resonated with me, because I have family members that are suffering this, and you're telling me that you don't want my family well because you want them to be able to take your product and you want to be able to sell your product.
Correct.
And so, and as I mentioned, it triggered something in me. And my wife, being a passionate, she's a servant, and she has a servant heart as well. So we both wanted to make sure that our communities had, health equity, had the opportunity to live a better quality of life by improving these outcomes and reversing these trends that impacted us.
Well, you can. I'm surprised that the medical establishment hasn't tried to cancel you guys. Generally, that whole wellness health issue with diet and exercise generally is not anything that establishment wants to promote. It seems like the treatment, the prescriptions, the pills, and evidently I know that's probably where the money is for the industry. But yeah, the wellness, wholeness and wellness, that piece of it doesn't seem to be pushed by anyone. And it seems like if you try to push that, you get canceled.
And that's exactly right. And we are out here pushing against big pharma because, like I say, that is a huge industry. At the time, my company was like number 7 on the totem pole. And with development, after research and development, my company profited $7.5 billion. And they were like number 7 on the totem pole with profit shares. And so Pfizer, of course, was number 1 at $35 billion at that particular time. And so, it is a market, and they're making money off of.
And that's not in medicine. That was just in the diabetic space. Is that correct?
Right. Correct.
Man, look at that.
So it's a lucrative industry. You think about the fact that you got 3,500 representatives for a pharmaceutical company nationwide, and you think about you got a base salary that's ranging from anywhere from like $60,000 to $80,000. That's small change in comparison to the impact that they're going to make in the community with selling the drugs. So, and I'm not saying let me balance that, because there is a need for drugs. I'm not saying it's
right. There is a need for drugs,
but also I think there's a need to balance it out with pushing health education, and that is a critical need in the communities. And I think that education is power. And so once you and that's because that gives you knowledge, and once you have knowledge, I think you're able to make some decisions in your life to increase the quality of your life. So, like I say, I'm not saying that people don't need medication or you don't need medications, but at the same time, I think there needs to be a balance,
True.
kind of woven in there to ensure that people have the opportunity to live a better quality of life should they decide not to take medication.
Well, we've done several shows on health during the course of the year. I think this may be the first one we've done this year. Tom, we did several last year, I know, and brought on medical experts. And so you're absolutely correct. We need more like you to help get the word out and educate our people. The food is killing us. The amount of sugar. I didn't realize, Tom, and I guess may already know this, but do you realize that sugar was really only been around for 400 or 500 years? Sugar has not always been part of our diet. Up until maybe the 1500s. Maybe when sugar was discovered and learned how to make liqueurs and liquors out of it, that sugar became a staple of our diet. But before then, people didn't really eat sugar. They didn't know about it.
That is very, very interesting. Let me ask you this as we continue to kind of learn a little bit more. We kind of understand the foundation of the how and why and the circumstances that led to it. And, you work and focus, of course, in the state of Mississippi, several areas, of course, starting out in Jackson and expanding from there. Tell us a little bit about, because we know that Jackson is proportionally one of the largest major urban areas that is predominantly Black in the United States of America. And given the demographics of the state,
83%, Tom.
Exactly. Given the demographics of the state, the demographics of the city, are there any unique nuances when it comes to healthcare? Obviously you have a healthcare background in pharmaceuticals, and you've obviously had to get a whole new education, in this new area where you're trying to balance out the effects of what our communities are facing. Anything that you find unique about Mississippi that wouldn't apply to maybe other areas, Florida, Texas, California, whatever that case is, when it comes to dealing with healthcare and healthcare with our communities in particular?
Well, this is Dr. Erica, and thank you again for having us. One of the things with Mississippi is that we experience a lot of health disparities, meaning we have transportation issues, having access to health care, how to get to and from the doctor's office. We have had a large amount of closures of hospitals in our rural communities. So when the hospitals close, that means more distance for individuals to have to travel in order to even be a provider. So when we think about those disparities, but also the health literacy, being able to have the information you need so that you can ask those powerful questions to your provider and to be able to demand the answers to those questions and have the confidence when you go in to be able to really inquire more about your health and be informed when you go to the appointment. So part of all of those issues are compacted for us in Mississippi. Also, you have to look at the economics. We also know that economics play a big role in health. There are those that sit in the middle. They do not, they make too much to be on Medicaid, and they make too little or they don't qualify for the Affordable Care Act insurance. So they sit in the middle, or what we call the gap, of having no insurance at all. And then you have providers who choose not to take certain insurances. And so it also leaves a big proportion of the people in Mississippi without a medical home, as we would call it, and definitely not a primary provider. So these are all compounding issues when we think about our healthcare system. I think we've been still using a healthcare system from centuries ago and have not thought about how we evolve into innovation of how we want to really look at healthcare from a prevention as opposed to a treatment mechanism.
Let me ask you this, Doctor. Two things. One, I want you to comment on the possibility of going back to the days where doctors actually visit the home, where you can kind of see what the environment looks like, maybe see some of the chemicals being used to clean or what's in the kitchen as part of the healthcare investigation. And then the other, if you could speak to, I remember when I was younger and didn't have very much money and I was trying to start a business, that I was able to actually negotiate with my doctor to pay office visits out of pocket and then receive sample medicines because I couldn't afford to get the prescription filled. Can you talk to that as a possibility for those who are caught in the middle? Like you said, the ones too poor to afford to qualify for help, and the ones who don't make enough money to pay for private insurance. Is there something in the middle, like being able to negotiate and pay out of pocket for what you can afford? Are doctors still open to those type of negotiations, or just the one I found to provide care for me, the exception?
Right. So that's how Magnolia Medical Foundation really works. We fill the gap. We are that clinical service. We are those health program services that a lot of the community members come to that may not have insurance, may not be able to afford those services. So they are able to come to Magnolia Medical Foundation, any one of our 5 locations. And so we have
5 locations. Wow. Okay.
We have 5 locations. We started out initially as one. Actually, we started out even very humble than that. It was actually a vision, and I like to share this story.
If you are there, I cannot hear you.
Like for hospitals or somewhere that had all the screening tools.
Okay, Dr. Thompson.
Dr. Eric.
Dr. Thompson, you probably lost.
Can you start that story over?
We lost the last 30 seconds. You went dead for about 30 seconds.
Okay, I was saying initially when we started, we didn't have an office at all. And so we would go to churches and we would go into the community and just set up health fairs and just have our table there, and then do certain screenings, and then educate about the disease process so that people were empowered with knowledge of what was happening. And then we set up prevention programs in the church. So we did not have an office. We were just, as I tell folks, we were just on fire to really get this information out. And so then we actually did what is called an incubator. So for those who are thinking about businesses and say, hey, I don't have a space, incubators are a great place to start your business. So we started our business in an incubator, and an incubator is a building where multiple businesses may be located. So the cost to actually have your business there is less. And so you're able to really take your money and put it towards a business as opposed to rental and all of those other costs. And so we were doing diabetes education classes. We were doing self-management classes. We were doing everything we could, and all of these services were free. And I tell people all the time, FREE. And so our goal was to continue to be able to provide these for free so that we could close the gap. Our motto is building bridges to a better quality of life, and we wanted to be able to build that bridge and fill the gap. And so when we were able to afford buildings and space, we then were able to have people come in, and we actually have one of our offices that has a full clinic. We provide clinical health services. We provide free diapers. We provide feminine products for women. We suffer in the United States as a whole for families trying to choose about feminine products over food. If you go into a store, a feminine product for a woman can cost about $10. So if you think about that, that's $120 that women have to use. And then some women we serve a family that has 6 girls. So if you think about that family's income towards feminine products, so when you think about diapers, they're $44 a case at our local Sam's. And if you think about purchasing that case, we're saving families money at the end of the day. So that money can be resourced back to build wealth and then used toward other means of housing and utilities and other things that they may need. And so we have a food pantry. We know our seniors and our children are our most vulnerable population. So we provide formula. We provide food for seniors. They come and they can get senior food boxes. And we try to make sure that all of these services are available for anyone 18 and above, from toddlers. So we say we take care of everybody from 0 up, making sure that they have those services. And we're grateful that through our partners.
How, if I may cut you off, how do you fund these things?
Yes.
Do you take donations or?
Through donations, through partners. We actually are grant funded for a lot of the programs that we do, but mainly just the love and care and support of individuals who see the vision and support the vision.
Tom, let's put the address up and the contact information for how to reach them for anyone. And let me put this out as a challenge for everyone. If you reach out to Magnolia Medical Foundation and make a donation, we will match your contribution with a hotel gift card worth 5 times the value of your donation, up to $500. So please reach out to them. The information on how to reach them is there. Reach out to them, find out how to make a donation. Please make one and let us know that you made the donation, and we will make sure you're rewarded. So we want to make sure our nonprofits are supported. And guys, this has probably been the best and most thorough community contribution to being made by a nonprofit that we've had on the show so far, for the amount of work that they're doing and giving away. They need to help. So please be generous. And like I said, make a donation. We'll match that with a hotel gift card that you can use for 1 million hotels around the country, around the globe. And we'll match your contribution up to 5 times, up to $500. So please reach out to them and make that donation. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, we really appreciate that because that allows us to continue to do the programs that we do. We are also, one of the things that we really want to really push for our communities more is economic empowerment. And that is one of our major pillars at Magnolia Medical Foundation. As we know, economic is equivalent to the amount of health. You know, economics, health and wealth go hand in hand. And so we are always pushing to educate our community through financial literacy is another arm of Magnolia Medical. We conduct classes monthly around financial literacy, talking about insurance and talking about family planning, end-of-life planning, wills, estate planning, but also how to just budget, how to save money, how to accumulate wealth. All of these things are part of the ability. We know when we're higher income earners, you're then open to more opportunities in your health arena, insurance, and being able to afford certain things. And so we also educate about home ownership. Our organization is a HUD certified agency, so we are certified to teach pre-purchase home buying. And so we know everyone hopes to own a home, but we also understand that there are some folks who may realize that the home ownership is not for them. But we also need to teach about how to gain access for credit, rental, how to be a good rental, how to pay your rent on time, which builds your credit so that you look credit worthy when you go to the bank. We bring in bankers. We have partnerships with certain banks that have given our members and families that come through our program, they get what is called like a mini loan. And it's really to build their credit. This money is given to them no matter what their credit score is, and it is built to build credit and wealth. And so we're looking at all of these. We just don't look at it on just the health arena. We look at it from the whole totality of the family. When we first started out, and my husband can talk about this, we were looking at the prison industry. We wanted to make sure that when men came out of the system, they had men who were there readily to receive them, mentor them, and show them how to re-enter first into the home again, and then into society again. So all of these different programs are programs that we do, and it's the Win Them Back program. And so I'll let Jay talk more about that.
Yeah, we implemented a program where we would identify inmates that were 6 months prior to release, being released back into the community. And we would implement those programs actually while they were still incarcerated. So once they came out, we would continue working with them. We identified the ones that were on good behavior. Some of, because, we want to make sure that these guys are serious about turning their life around. We don't want to waste their time or ours.
Correct.
The ones that were serious about turning their lives around, we really worked diligently with them. I had one guy in particular, I'm so proud of him. And this is just one of few that we were able to assist. He didn't have a GED when he went in. He went in 12 years for murder and came out, no GED. When he came out, I walked him through the process of obtaining his GED. He said, well, who's going to hire a felon? I say, well, we'll work on getting your record expunged, but in the meantime, what do you like to do? He said, I feel like I'm an artist, so let's gravitate to a barbering. So we got him barbering school. Long story short, he owns his own business today. He has a GED. He's married. He just bought a home in one of the most affluent communities in the surrounding area. He's doing very well. He's in the life of his son. He has 2 businesses also. So he has an art detail business as well as the barbershop. And he's also renting booth space at the barbershop. So he's on track and, very proud of him. And now he's working with an attorney to get his record expunged now. And he's actually one of the people that mouthpiece pretty much for us now to go around and say, listen, if you want to change your life, these people can help. And so, he's critical when we do the water district. He's made contributions to us in that arena. He's like, any way he can possibly help, he wants to do it. And I think he's more of a credible source than I am because he's gone through it and he's come out of it. And
Okay.
His level of experience in the penal system lends more credibility to somebody who then had to say, "Listen, you can turn your life around." So we use him in that capacity as well. But yeah, he's now a mentor. So just we're not one dimensional. I mentioned that we started off with diabetes self-management, and we did. It was a great platform, and we continue to work that today. But there are so many different facets that plague our community. We also do with the workforce training. We do with that as well. So many things that plague our community. We don't want to just be one dimensional.
Right. So we have a question here from one of the on the chat line, and then we also want to cover the water issue there. Would you like for you guys to talk about a little bit? So one is about medicine and coupons. And I know there are like some CVS and Walmarts that discount medicines, but for those who are struggling to purchase medicine and they can't afford it, what are some of the options that you guys can talk about real quick?
One of the things that we do at Magnolia, we are what is called a 340B pharmacy program. And a 340B pharmacy program allows individuals to, and they can be private insured, no insurance. They can actually receive their medications. There's blood pressure medications like EpiPens are like $500. Our participants in the program can receive their EpiPens possibly for like $40. So it's really reduced cost, and for some, it's no cost at all. Especially if it's
did I hear you say? Did I hear you say it costs $500 and they can get it down to $40?
Like
or possibly free.
Wow.
Or free, or possibly free through this particular program. And so these 340B programs, if individuals who are listening have federally qualified health centers, what we call FQHCs within their state, and they are usually in every state, they can actually go to those federally qualified health centers and enroll in those pharmacy programs. Those pharmacy programs provide these vouchers, but they also fill the prescriptions. Like our pharmacy is located out of New York, so they actually mail prescriptions to our clients. So they are all over the state. These particular types of pharmacies. It's all about sharing information and resources. There are ways for us to not have to pay as much as these medicines. The other thing I really stress to our clients is to talk with your provider. They get free medications. They have samples.
Right. I used to get samples from my doctor when I couldn't afford medicine.
And a lot of times they forget to even offer the samples, but you ask about them because they're so busy going from patient to patient that 15 minutes that they don't even think about, hey, we might have that in our closet. You will be surprised the number of medications in the closets that expire because the physicians or the nurses forget to even share that they may have a sample. So please ask about samples, but also find locations within your area that have these 340B pharmacy programs.
Okay. And then tell us about the water situation there. Has it gotten any better since we first broke the story a few years ago?
Okay, thanks for asking about that. It's actually temporarily improved. It's smoothed out. I said temporarily improved because the problem has not been totally resolved, because totally resolving the problem would entail basically rebuilding the entire infrastructure.
Yes, I've heard that's $1 billion cost tag.
Yeah, it's like $2 billion cost tag. So, and that hasn't been done. And the breach, this last breach occurred. We had a water freeze, a hard freeze in February of 2021. And we had a 7-day ice storm here in Jackson. And it caused the infrastructure to be compromised. And so, we had a lot of citizens in Jackson, Mississippi, that were experiencing no water pressure at all, and those who could experience water pressure was experiencing light water pressure with something similar to mud coming out of their sink and going into the tubs. And I tell people, we got involved. You don't realize the severity of something. That was something of great magnitude. And people, we jumped in. We gave over 300,000 bottles of water away. We had programs that we targeted our seniors that could not, as my wife mentioned, had transportation issues. We would deliver water to senior complexes to ensure that they had water. But you have to realize we did water drives actually at all of the offices as well. But the thing is, one case of water, people wouldn't realize the severity of this problem because you have people standing in the shower, literally dumping a bottle of water on their head just so they can lather some soap up and take a bath. Taking another bottle of water and washing the soap off at the top of them, and that was their means of bathing. They had to cook. A family of 4, that's 4 showers, that's 4 baths, that's 4, you got to cook meals, and God forbid somebody had to take medicine 2 times a day. You run through a case of water before 12 o'clock p.m. comes. Right. And
so I just recently checked with what the EPA site on you guys' situation, and they seem to have given the thumbs up saying the water is fairly safe. Now there's another report that's supposed to come out in August about the lead and copper levels, where they're going to verify whether these are safe levels or not. I'm not sure how you got the thumbs up when you're not sure if the copper and the lead levels are as safe. It seemed to me lead is such a major problem when ingested or even absorbed through the skin. So I'm not sure how they gave that area the thumbs up when they're not sure about lead and copper levels. So I would say that as much bottled water as y'all can gather, and I'm asking people to donate money, with the purpose of allowing y'all to buy water to give out. But I certainly wouldn't drink the water there unless it's filtered, or I'm totally sure. But we saw what happened in Flint when the government gave the thumbs up and said the water was safe there also, and they ended up having to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in a settlement because they were either fudging the numbers or they were wrong. So I wouldn't want my child to be adversely affected with lead poisoning, or myself thinking that the EPA and everyone is giving me a thumbs up and the water is still contaminated.
Gotcha. And we've got about a couple more minutes, Jimmy, before we close our social. We want to give these last minute or so for Brother Jay and Miss Erica to kind of make some closing comments, and then we'll kind of close out the show. We're going to have you guys back. Hopefully the video will be working next time.
Yeah, we'll love to. But I just want to touch quickly on that water situation you mentioned. You're so right. But we do have a trust issue in the city. So people have seen what happened in Flint. We're still, we had over 300 boil water notices within a time period. We had over 7,000 water breaks within the last year. So when you think about all of those inconsistencies of the water line and compromise, you know that there has been some leaches of lead and other things as well. Mm-hmm. So people are not trusting the water. So they're still coming, they're still getting water, still purchasing water. People will not even, drink it. The other part that we have been concerned about is the dermatological issues that we may see later. For those who are still using that water, bathing and using it of sorts, because we know that in the Flint situation, those things happen. But also with the water with the lead, we provide water to children up until the age of 6, because that is the recommendation when things like this have happened because of the leaching of lead. And so we are, because the pipes are still the pipes and they're old pipes. Right. And so that doesn't change anything. And so, there are some lawsuits pending that the NAACP has filed and other organizations against the state, as well as EPA has filed litigations against the state. So all of those are things that are happening, but we're still supporting in the water and still providing those for families, especially, those with infants, because you need clean water to make formula. And Correct. So all of those are so important. So in conclusion, just want to say, we understand that these are all public health issues, but these are all issues that we cannot ignore. And that definitely we have to look at working towards solutions. And that is really our main focus at Magnolia Medical Foundation. Is not, we know that we have problems, but how do we solve those problems?
Gotcha.
So we like to be considered solutionists as opposed to compounding issues.
Outstanding. We want to thank
Well, we are out of time, so yes, Tom, we definitely have to have y'all come back because there's so much outside of the medical issues that you guys deal with and cover. You're doing so much in that community, and when y'all come back, Dr. Erica, I certainly want to have you answer why more are not doing. I mean, I heard of a clinic in Oklahoma that was doing something similar, where they, for a monthly fee, they provide your medical care and your medicine. But why more doctors don't have that type of setup in areas that are needed. So, and we could talk about that the next show. But please stay on. We want to talk to you guys after the show has concluded, the wrap up some things.
Yeah.
But you definitely have to come back. Tom, we have to book them to come back.
and
And
we can get that.
we probably have to. Yes, and so we apologize that when our first segment ran a little long, so we didn't have as much time to talk with you, you guys. But next time we make sure that we correct
And
that.
what we'll do as we close out this show, there were a couple of folks who joined a little bit later that I did not have time to acknowledge. We want to thank Brother Marvin Jones for joining us this evening, who was on the chat line. Miss Elisa Patterson, who is a regular on Black Men Speak podcast. And shout outs to her, by the way. She was just voted vice president of the Austin Black Lawyers Association. So,
all right, congratulations.
And shout out to her. And then Miss Deidre Brewer joined us on the chat session as well. So we want to thank Miss Deidre Brewer for showing up as well. And then also want to give a shout out to Miss Tanya Hall, who has a daily news show, community news on kggram.com at 7:30, 9:30, 2 o'clock, and 4 p.m. So if you want to listen to your good community daily news, go find her on the internet as well, regardless of where you are in the country. And so, of course, we want to make sure that we feed our folks good information on a daily basis so they can understand what is relevant to them. So, Jimmy, I think that is about it for me, Jimmy. And this show went by extremely fast.
It always does, Tom. We have good guests on with good information. So we'll see everyone next week, same time, same channel.
Good evening, everyone.
Bye.